Hello and welcome to Hindsighting, where we discuss all the movies to win the Best Picture Oscar and try to figure out if this picture truly is the best or is time rendered a different verdict. I'm Edward Clow. My guest today has written film reviews and articles for publications such as Movies Online, Horror Movies Online, and Home Theater Magazine. He's also an accomplished film editor, an avid painter of Bob Ross-style compositions, and he penned the Lifetime classic Psycho Granny. Michael Prince, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me, Ed. I'm excited about this one.
Today, we are hindsighting the Best Picture of 2006, The Departed. From 5 nominations, it also won Oscars for Best Director, Best Adapted Screenplay, and Best Editing. It was nominated against Babel, Letters from Iwo Jima, Little Miss Sunshine, and The Queen. Before we get to The Departed proper, I want to throw a question out to you. The thesis I'm trying to interrogate, not necessarily prove or disprove, I think the 2000s was the worst decade for movies that I lived through. It's not to say there weren't any good or even great movies then. To put it really simply, it was not as good as the 90s, which came before it, and it was not as good as the 2010s, which came after it. I think there are a few reasons for it. The big ones being, I think that there was after 9/11, I think a lot of the studios decided nobody wants to see anything serious. And I think that prestige TV starts in the early 2000s, and we're just seeing a lot of the great writing and some of the great actors increasingly pull to television. And I think that it's just something that sort of has been bothering me since 2009. And I think I'll make an addendum to this. I think the back half of the 2000s shows a lot of life, shows signs of life, including the movie that we're going to discuss here today, without sort of giving away which way I'm going to tip verdict-wise. But I guess my question for you is, what did you think in general about the 2000s in movies?
Ooh, wow. All right.
On the spot. Sorry.
No, yeah.
I mean, you can push back. Other guests have pushed back. Other guests that are a little younger have said, no, I love this, this, and this. Some people have not seen it. But, I mean, what do you think?
I think you bring up a very interesting point, though, because I think 2000s is when, all the money starts happening, right? And, we're going to make everything. We're going to be rich in Harry Potter money. And then, we're going to just YA, and we're just going to – special effects are catching up so that they can make things cheaper and dumber and more – and globalization. It's really funny because I'm going back and I'm thinking back to a lot of our film school classes that we had. And, Patty Zimmerman, if you would.
Rest in peace.
I don't remember if it was the senior one or the Hollywood class, but it was all about the globalization of Hollywood and the corporatization. Anyway, I don't want to go on a rant here, but no. But yeah, I mean, that's where it starts kind of happening, and where money is just sort of taking over, and people and businesses are taking over creative decisions, and everyone's trying to find the balance. It's also really interesting because I sort of have something about this with Departed and how, without getting into it, but they have a lot of cell phone play in it.
Maybe more than any other movie, this is a cell phone movie. And the iPhone 1 year later really makes about 90% of this movie just impossible. But we'll get into that when we get into the movie. But
I will say though, it was a great looking time because there was still film involved, and there was still a bit of that artistry involved. So you'd have a shitty movie, but hey, it was shot on film and looked kind of cool.
Yeah, that's a really interesting piece of this that I hadn't thought of. So thank you for sort of adding that to the stew of this question. Is that there are things that are shot digitally, but they just don't look that great. Soderbergh shoots full frontal digitally. It just looks like shit. I mean, he obviously gets better at it. I mean, Soderbergh's a very experimental filmmaker. Crucially, though, George Lucas shoots Episode 2 digitally. And I don't know if you saw Keanu Reeves' great documentary, Side by Side. Have you seen that?
I did, yeah.
Yeah. For those who don't know, it's a documentary that Keanu Reeves produced and is sort of hosts. He's sort of the stars in because of his star power. He's able to sit down with James Cameron and Soderbergh and Christopher Nolan and Lucas himself. And what was interesting is that George Lucas just decided to shoot episode 2 digitally, even though he could have had any resource he wanted to make a Star Wars movie. And it's interesting because whatever you think about episode 2, he really did see where things were going. And, Michael Mann shoots Collateral digitally 2 years later. So, yeah, that's the digital versus film thing really becomes a thing in the 2000s. And it's not even a thing that people think about anymore. In fact, the craziest thing that I remember when I found out is that Sidney Lumet's last movie before The Devil Knows You're Dead, which he shot a year after this in 2007, it was his last movie. He was 83. He shot that digitally. And I remember on the commentary, Ethan Hawke saying how cool he thought that was because, like, Spielberg and Scorsese don't shoot digitally. And here's this 83-year-old man who would have been completely excused for saying, hey, I'm from Playhouse 90. My first movie was 1957. I'm shooting on film. But I think it's very cool that an old master like Sidney Lumet, decided to give that a try. And it probably, like you said, were budget considerations. He was probably able to put that movie together financially a little easier because he wasn't shooting on film. So yeah, that's an interesting piece of this.
Yeah, because I read, I have the David Lynch book on audio, the Catching the Big Fish, and one thing he's a big proponent of is when he discovers digital video. It's like, I love it. I can just make long takes and do great things. Terrible Lynch, I apologize.
Yeah.
But
mine's not any better. Yeah, that's all. Yeah, I mean, I highly recommend that documentary for people, and I think, yeah, the digital versus film thing is obviously Tarantino and Nolan are die on the hill for film, but Fincher and Soderbergh, who are the same age, ran to digital with open arms, and it is, yeah, I mean, it is an interesting debate. One that I don't know.
I like them. They're just different tools. It doesn't matter. Let's just tell the story. It's like,
yeah, the best quote I heard from Soderbergh, typically, he said that he said, Christopher Nolan asked me when I was going to start shooting my movies on film again. And I said, I'll start shooting my movies on film again if you start writing your scripts in pencil. Which I thought was just such a great, it just really kind of summed up at least the appeal of it. All right, well, let's move on to The Departed, but first some stats. This is the first remake of a foreign film to win the Academy Award for Best Picture. This is the first Best Picture winner of the 21st century that wasn't released on VHS in the United States, and it's the first to be released on the short-lived HD DVD format, kind of tying into what we were just talking about. Warner Brothers...
I like that one.
You like that one, HD DVD? Yeah. I sat that out. I guess I'm glad. Warner Brothers Home Entertainment had already phased out VHS by 2006, the year this movie came out. Therefore, this movie came out on DVD, Blu-ray, and HD DVD the following year. So this might be the first Best Picture winner never to be out on VHS. This is the first Warner Brothers Best Picture Oscar winner without Morgan Freeman since Amadeus. So the last three that Warner Brothers won were Driving Miss Daisy, Unforgiven, and $1 Million Baby. This is the only Best Picture nominee that year to also be nominated for Best Adapted Screenplay. The other four were nominated in the original screenplay category. So these stats I just read are from IMDb. Here's a stat that I love, and this is the first time I get to bring it up. And this is something that I discovered completely on my own. I'm going to just say I just came up with this years ago. So in the movie, in The Departed, there's a line where Alec Baldwin makes a reference to the movie Going My Way, which is the Best Picture winner of 1944, which we had not covered on this show. So far, this is one of 3 times that I'm aware of where a Best Picture winner is named inside another Best Picture winner. The other 2 times, to my knowledge, I may discover it in the run of the show, in The Apartment, Jack Lemmon is watching the movie Grand Hotel on TV, and then in Annie Hall, the Woody Allen character makes reference to The Godfather. Extra points because he's saying it to Diane Keaton, who was in The Godfather. So that's a stat that just occurred to me years ago. That's 3 examples. We'll see if we can find more as we go through this show. At 2 hours and 31 minutes, it's number 67 in ascending length. Number 68 if you want to count Sunrise, which we'll litigate if that counts in a later episode. It is number 16 on the box office list of Best Picture winners with a worldwide gross of $291 million. So, Prince, normally I ask what people's previous relationship to the movie was, but last week I asked a different question specific to Crash. I want to ask a really specific question to The Departed, And I think this is something, this is not a conversation that I'm going to get to have a lot on hindsighting, which is sort of baked into my question. So, is The Departed one of the few pure genre movies ever to win Best Picture? Here are the other ones I think would be on this list. And please, if there's any I'm not thinking of. So, The French Connection, The Sting, Silence of the Lambs. I think Parasite is arguable. I think Parasite has a lot of genre elements, but it's about income inequality. Great movie. I'm just saying, I think that, so Departed, French Connection, The Sting, Silence of the Lambs, unless you want to add to it, are the only Best Picture winners that are just pure genre, that have no social agenda, that aren't about any political, socioeconomic issues, that are just pure genre movies. Can you think of any other Best Picture winners off the top of your head that you would add to that list?
I'd hesitate, but I would kind of put Gladiator on there.
Okay, interesting.
Um,
Because it's a gladiator movie, it's not. It's because it's like,
yeah.
Okay, that's interesting.
I would also put Braveheart on there solely because I don't think Mel Gibson sought out to make awards. He just wanted to make sort of like this big, violent, epic film.
That's interesting.
And have, like the drama in it, but
yeah, maybe what I'm thinking, that those are interesting. Maybe what I'm thinking is like when these movies came out, you can't look at them and say, oh, that's Oscar Bation or they're going for an award. Now, The Departed is an interesting case, though, because it was Martin Scorsese and he had never won before. We'll talk about the Best Picture race a little later on in the show, but it was all but a guarantee that he was going to win the Oscar for this. And we'll litigate how deserved it is and all that a little later on.
If you're looking at it from perspective of like a moviegoer, like you and I are movie fans, like, dude, I can't wait for whatever Scorsese's coming out with next. And we're like, holy shit, this is a crime movie, a contemporary crime movie.
Mhm.
Like, it's not really based on a someone else, so it's done. Like, it's not going to have the rise and fall arc that Goodfellas or Casino will.
It's not a true story, yeah.
You're not coming from a true story arc. He's coming off of 2 Miramax Oscar baity flicks, big, huge epics. This felt like all right, I'm going to tone it down. And it does feel a little bit toned down, even though it is sort of sprawling. But that's because of the cast, because every character is an actor. And you're like, oh, hey, all right, let's have a scene with this person. And that person is enjoying a meal of their scene. But yeah, it felt like a real easy layup, and it's not like Scorsese's like, it doesn't feel like he's making it to win an Oscar. It's just like he's making it to have fun, something in his wheelhouse. As it's going on, he does have the violence thing, but it's also just like, it's very brutal, nihilistic violence. And you're like, there is no good way out for any of these characters.
I guess my only hesitation with not the movie itself, but like the one thing that might feel like a cheat in terms of this being this pure genre movie that gets Academy recognition is that he had not yet won an Oscar, but Scorsese was already, long before this, an A-list prestige director. You made a very good point how his previous 2 movies got multiple Oscar nominations and were Miramax Oscar
baity. There were the
Miramaxy
ones too, where it was sort of pushed and shoved, like, "Hey, it's Scorsese."
Yeah, and I much prefer The Departed to those previous 2 movies in a walk. But is it? I guess my question is this: could this same movie win the Best Picture Oscar if it's got either a no name or an up and coming director, and likewise a cast that aren't movie stars? And I'm not attacking the cast. I think the cast in this is uniformly great. But like, if it's not, Leo, Matt Damon, and Nicholson,
it's like your third choice.
Yeah, if it's like
your Miles Teller and
yeah, if it's like actors like whoever was in the mid 2000s, like those like those second or third tier people, just in stardom wise, does that movie win Best Picture?
No.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Scorsese, it does not.
Yeah, and I think the difference is that The French Connection wins and French Connection, no one really knew who Hackman was. He'd been in a couple things. No one knew who Friedkin was. No one knew who Roy Scheider was. I mean, you could also make that same argument about The Sting. The Sting is a fun con movie, but does anybody care does the Academy care if it's not Newman and Redford and George Roy Hill? Like, does it have to have a movie star gloss on it to sneak by the Academy, even without the...
Oh, yeah, it certainly doesn't hurt.
Yeah. Okay. That being said, I still celebrate this as, wow, here's a movie, particularly compared to Gangs of New York and Aviator, which I don't think are terrible movies. I don't think are even bad movies, but I do think, I mean, I'll just blame it on Harvey Weinstein, Fish in a Barrel. I think those are movies that might have been in line with some of Scorsese's best movies. Like, if he wasn't working for such a big studio that was so obsessed with winning Academy Awards, which Miramax infamously was.
Yeah.
I mean, for younger listeners who maybe don't know, Miramax kind of came to power, with a lot of really cool independent movies in the early 90s, chiefly Pulp Fiction, and Pulp Fiction is a great movie, but after Pulp Fiction, they're in the Oscar race almost every year with winners or nominees, and the movies get increasingly more stodgy, more just Oscar baity, and that's not something you could have said about The Crying Game, The Piano, Pulp Fiction.
Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, well, again, Pulp Fiction, if Pulp Fiction had won Best Picture, that would obviously be probably the most supreme example of something that, like, you make a good point about, like, when these other movies were talking about French Connection, Silence of the Lambs, maybe even The Sting and The Departed, when they came out, I don't think awards were mentioned until the Oscar race went on. Would you count, I kind of danced around it, would you count Parasite on that list in terms of being a genre, or do you think it's too many veggies in terms of the income inequality? It's a great movie. I'm just saying in terms of like French Connection, Silence of the Lambs, Departed. I mean, let's just stick with those three, because those are pretty...
Yeah, I wouldn't put the Parasite on that, but I've only seen that once.
Okay.
And that was like literally like I watched a screener of it before the awards were announced. So like that was pre-COVID.
In our Lord of the Rings episode, I talked a bit about how, that's the first fantasy movie to win. And what's amazing, and I made this revelation, I think, in that episode, forgive me for not knowing, if you look at the 97 movies, almost every genre is covered, not equally. The only Best Picture winner that we haven't had, maybe that changes this year, is we've never had a horror movie. Some people kind of squint and say Silence of the Lambs is a horror movie. I disagree, and I'm the guy who thinks Jaws is a horror movie and Seven is a horror movie. But Silence of the Lambs is a thriller, and there are no other thrillers that have won. So, but it's weird, because obviously I'm always bitching and moaning how there's no genre diversity in the Academy in these winners. I think we're seeing a slight change in that now that the Academy's younger and more international. But as far as like what's heavily rewarded, it's still sort of the same genres, which isn't to say that these movies are necessarily bad, but yeah. So I think it's an interesting thing. But if you look at there's comedies that have won, there's a ton of musicals that have won, obviously dramas have won. We now have a fantasy movie that's won. We have a cop movie that's won. We have a thriller
Sci-fi
that's won.
Doesn't get a lot of
sci-fi might be the only. Yeah, I think sci-fi, you're right.
I guess, although I suppose you could argue Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Yeah, I think that's sci-fi. I think everything else. Yeah, you know what? I think Everything Everywhere All at Once would be the only science fiction movie to win, because I don't think it fits in any other genre. I mean, it's about the multiverse, and that's certainly a heady concept. And so yeah, but that's only 3 years ago. 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
Yeah, so that's the first one. So maybe things are changing. Let's get into the Departed proper. I guess kind of on this point, the very opening of this movie, like the first 2 minutes where we're seeing the sort of documentary footage of Boston in the 60s, I don't know why this is here. It's way too serious, and it's the only thing in this movie that feels well, it's one of two things in this movie. I'll get to the other one later that feels tonally off. It doesn't like I mean, it's quick. It's only like a minute or two, and it does tie into the Nicholson character. But I'm just like, why doesn't this movie start literally 2 minutes later with him walking into the bodega, whatever it is? I mean, did you bump on that? This has always bothered me, but watching it with the hindsight in mind on this, like, I was like, why are we starting with like this documentary footage?
My thought is it's there to look kind of it's there to let me know as a New Jersey guy who's raised, in the area of the Sopranos and the New York Scorsese crime stuff, to let you know that hey, it was kind of happening in Boston too,
Hmm.
because it's something I'm just like, oh, I never think about the mafia being in Boston and what that would be. So maybe it's just sort of to give you just a little bit of a catch you up on the scene,
That's interesting.
talking about
Ye-
what it's like, but also to sort of make it feel, like his other ones where you're like, oh no, this is sort of not ripped from the headlines, but it could be a true story, and Scorsese's sort of verite
Right.
take on things just to sort of ease you in.
That's interesting. I did, because I mentioned last week in our 2005 episode my best movie of that year was Match Point, and in my when talking about that, I talked about how Woody Allen went to London, he got out of New York, which he'd rarely done before, and that like kind of shook things up. It's a little true of this in that I mean Scorsese's made movies like set in Asia and like all over the world and stuff, but as far as a crime movie, I mean, because yes, Casino is set in Vegas, but it's about the mainly Italian mob taking over Vegas. This movie is set in Boston. I think it was mostly shot in New York, but they obviously shot enough in Boston to make it look like
It was,
Boston.
yeah.
But this is a little bit of him, at least in a city that he hasn't made a movie in before. Off the top of my head, I can't think of any. He's certainly never made
Yeah,
a
yeah.
crime movie. Mean Streets, Goodfellas are New York. Again, Casino is Vegas, but it's the whole point of it is just like these New York, you know,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
mobsters coming to Vegas. So yeah, I think I still kind of bump on the opening, but I think the reason for it you've just kind of elucidated for me. Like that does kind of make sense that like they're trying to show you if you did not grow up in Boston, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
this is what was going on there. And yeah, I never thought about organized crime being in Boston. I only think about it in New York, you know,
Yeah, yeah,
or the outer
exactly.
boroughs. So I guess that might have been what he was thinking. Um, but yeah, so other than that, I think that's the only thing in this opening that
Only flaw in the film. Only flaw. No.
no, we'll get into the flaws, but what's interesting about the entire I'm gonna call it the cold open, just like before the title.
It's like a 20-minute title, right?
Exactly. Well, it's very long. It's almost like some of the latter James Bond movies. But what's interesting is that
I, I always say The Fugitive, because The Fugitive is one of those movies when you're like minute 14 and you're like, oh, the credits are still going.
right,
Okay.
yeah, that's an interesting one. Well, they kind of
and
start and
then
stop those credits so that
yeah,
yeah,
and
that's
then
the
train crash and you're like, okay, movie. And if that would have been the genre,
yeah.
that would have been one of those pure genre
If
ones.
Fugitive had won, you're absolutely right. That would have been like the first, I guess, action movie. If
Yeah.
yeah, that would have been yeah. You're
Fucking
right.
Schindler's List. No, I'm just kidding.
But what's interesting, and this movie does this a lot, and you're an editor, and we talked a lot last week. I talked with Billy Corbin, who's also an editor. We talked a lot about the editing of Crash. But what's interesting in this movie,
I was just listening to the music from Cocaine Cowboys recently too.
oh, were you? Oh,
I like
interesting.
Jan Hammer scores.
Oh, awesome. He'll love that. There you go, Billy. He'll get a big kick out of that. Um, so what's interesting, and this movie does this a lot, is in this opening, even though a lot happens before the title, they're really cross-cutting a lot, like, particularly when, like, DiCaprio's sitting down for his meeting scene, and it's very clear he's got, like, a crew cut and he's clean shaven, and they're in a cutting with him with slightly longer hair and a goatee, which he has most of the movie, and they're
Yeah.
really jumping around time-wise, and it's really well done, and they're really I mean, they really get through so much exposition and so much just like track laying. And I think the title, like once we see the title, because there's no opening title sequences in this movie, it's just one title card, The Departed,
Yeah.
and then from that point forward, we're we're pretty linear. Um, but there are scenes where people are talking and we'll see. There's just a very non-linear aspect to this movie, even though the story's told chronologically,
Yeah.
and I think it's just very well done.
Very much so. Yeah, it's a very frenetically paced sort of thing. Because, like you said, like that first 20 minutes we got, and then that's even like the first 20 minutes. You're like, oh, there's still like 2 hours and 10 minutes left of a film to tell.
Right.
Like this is just getting you up to speed, which is why I mean, I like Scorsese movies now, but I'm just like, oh, I'm strapping in for a 3.5 hour jaunt.
Yeah.
But it's still like they don't always maintain that pace. But this is letting you know, like, there's a lot of pieces that you're going to have to be keeping track of.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think it works. I think it works so well how it's done and how it's sort of like pedal to the metal. But like I was reading a little bit as well about Leo was saying, you probably saw it on IMDb trivia as I did, that he was just like, it's like I was having a panic attack the entire time, 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
And he even says that in the movie too. Like his character says it at one point in one of his therapy scenes with Vera Farmiga. But it's like, that is sort of what the movie is like. And you're just like, everyone is just constantly on the edge because you have too many people leading duplicitous lives.
Right.
And it's not even just the two of them. You have Vera Farmiga, you have Nicholson, you have who else knows? Like and at the end when you find out, oh, there's other dudes too who like the dude who saves Damon in the end, you're just like, oh fuck, this guy.
Yeah.
Like everyone is on this precipice edge and you don't know who is who and who the rat is. So it kind of just keeps you guessing.
Yeah.
Just as a sort of baseline function going through the film.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, I wouldn't go so far as to, we haven't covered them all yet, but as far as just sticking with the 2000s Best Picture winners, this is by far the one I've seen the most, because the first, I never seen Lord of the Rings, and the other four I had not seen since they were released, give or take maybe a year. This is the one I've seen the most, so it was kind of the most fun to revisit. But this one is just, of these 10, is just the most fun.
But it totally is. It is your typical, like, oh, it's on TNT. Sure, it's edited, but, I got 3.5 hours. Yeah, I'll just pop it on. Back when, I had cable and stuff like that. Like I said, I always just put it on in the background. And it's just like, I could watch it. I could watch any scene. It still holds up. Like, it's a very well cut thing.
Yeah, I agree. I've been kind of like bitching about the 2000s, but I don't know that in the 90s, there's some great movies that won. I don't know that there's a movie this fun that wins. I mean, maybe Silence of the Lambs, but that's still a pretty dark ride. I mean, you still have a woman in a, in a hole, screaming and maybe you get desensitized to it over time. But Silence of the Lambs is the only, if we're just talking about the 90s, is the only Best Picture winner that even it has fun things about it. Hannibal Lecter is obviously a very fun character, but this movie's fun, and I guess I'll just take this opportunity now. I think the only part of this movie, I won't say it doesn't work, but that just tonally bumps up against the fun is DiCaprio's relationship with the Vera Farmiga character. I think she's great in this movie, and I think she's a real discovery. I had never heard of her. I know she was in a movie called Running Scared, not the Billy Crystal, Gregory Hines one. She's a real discovery in this, and it was sort of smart to cast somebody unknown because you didn't need any more star wattage in this movie. In fact, the lights are pretty close to coming out as it is, just from an overload, from like circuit overload. But what kind of throws this into relief for me is that her scenes with Damon are so fun and they have such great chemistry, and she has great chemistry with DiCaprio. I think a lot of my problem with their storyline is nothing to do with the writing or the acting. I really don't like Comfortably Numb. I don't like that needle drop. I think it's so... It's even in the trailer. I watched the trailer again yesterday, which I remembered from 20 years ago, or almost 20 years ago. But like, I think that the needle drop, and this is something that Scorsese used to be kind of the best at, and I think even I think you could see him sort of losing his touch with needle drops. I mean, uh, shipping out to Boston is great. That works really well in this movie. That's like what I think of when I think of this movie. That works
Yeah,
great.
I was prepared to make many a shipping off to Boston joke.
Right. I think that like that scene where they have sex and that song is playing, and even a little
Yeah,
bit the way it's shot, how it's supposed to be like this sort of tender love scene. I think my problem with this, maybe my only problem with this movie is I think she gives a really great performance and I like her. I've liked her in other things. I think that I mean it's probably almost not even worth saying that the female character is underserved in such a testosterone heavy movie. I'm not at all
oh
going to
wait.
suggest that she should have as much lifting to do as Damon or DiCaprio or Nicholson or even Wahlberg. But I think to turn into this skid, I think they should have made her character, I don't want to say crazy, but like should have played up her, you know,
I mean, she is sleeping with a patient that she gave drugs to.
right.
Like, yeah,
Just
definitely amp that up a little bit more.
that's what I'm
Like,
saying. It's all
this
there.
woman's kind of unstable too.
That
Like, yeah,
yeah, and what I'm saying is like I like that's all there. Like the reason
yeah,
I'm having that thought, and I guess you are too. It sounds like you're agreeing with me. Is that like it's all kind of there, and that's not like antithetical to a Scorsese character anyway. And this movie doesn't
yeah.
seem, to its credit, all that concerned with, um, being conventional. Particularly if you look at how it ends and the sort of all the things that happen in it. Um, but yeah, I kind of like I don't want to lay the entire problem with this storyline on the feet of Comfortably Numb, but I just think that that choice of needle drop, it's less the song itself. I know I said I hated it, but it's just so portentous and heavy in a way that Shipping Up to Boston isn't. Because that other song is like percussive and it's like kind of crazy and it's like
Well, it
particularly
has an energy and a rhythm to it. You're like,
yes, and
oh
it's telling
yeah,
you how to enjoy the movie, and I just feel like, you know, um, and again, the pieces are all on the board with her, and 'cause I like her because I think her scenes with Damon, um, work better even as that relationship starts to go sour. I think,
yeah.
so again, I want to be clear. It's I just think there was an opportunity with to like get the entire movie on the same tone. And I think that's what holds this movie back a little bit, and some other things we'll get to in a bit, holds it back from like, you know, masterpiece.
Yeah.
Although
I was just I was just gonna say, even just stepping back from that, one thing that sort of bothers me about it altogether, if you will, is that I know you have to have coincidences in films,
oh yeah.
but like, okay, this guy's the rat. He's in this part of the, like he's Costigan is in with Costello, but he's working for Queen Anne. Sullivan's working for Costello, but working for it's like, okay, like, oh, and now they're dating the same person. And it's just like, from a writing perspective, just like, oh, come on.
Well,
It's just,
I'm of two minds about it. One, I completely agree with what you just said, but I do like how they never find out. Damon never finds
yeah,
out that she even cheated on him, much less with who. DiCaprio never
yeah.
finds out that she's living with Damon. I guess
Mhm.
she's in the end able to piece together that, like what happened. But, it- you know, and I agree with you. It's kind of a crazy coincidence and maybe a coincidence they could have. I mean, they set up that like he's got to see a shrink. She sets up that he's works with cops. It's like, okay, it's not impossible. It's not like a head slapping
Yeah.
impossibility. But yeah, it's I just kind of liked how there wasn't. I can imagine a studio note saying like, well, there's got to be a scene with the three of them together, which sometimes
Yeah.
results in good stuff. Like a studio note said, Hans and John McClane have to meet, and the writer had to figure out how, and Alan
Yeah.
Rickman can do an American accent, and like that's like the best scene in the fucking movie. So sometimes those things can force you into creative. But I remember the first time I saw it, I was like, wow, like neither one of these dudes knew that they were sleeping with the same woman.
Yeah.
And this is a little soap opera. She's pregnant I mean, we don't know who the father is. I'm not saying I need to know. It could be DiCaprio's baby, you know?
Yeah, yeah,
Maybe that's a scene that does belong in this movie where she's like, "I don't know who the father is." You know? That's a possibility.
yeah. I think that subtext in there definitely too. Like we know it's like, oh shit, it could be either of them.
Right.
It's probably DiCaprio because Damon's been, lint dicked most of the movie. But
Right, but obviously not enough that it couldn't be his. Yeah, the idea that Damon's impotent, which might have been his idea, I think that's also a great
yeah, I
moment.
think I
And
read that somewhere. But
yeah,
yeah,
and that's an interesting scene for her. And yeah, I mean, I want to be clear. I don't want this movie to be about her, and I don't think she needs any more real estate than she has. I think the editing is so masterful because I feel like everybody's served pretty well. I feel like it's
yeah.
balanced really well, including some of the supporting characters. But yeah, I just I mean, I wrote down Farmiga should be crazier, and I just think you're already doing this movie that's so fraught, and you're kind of like you already have like one foot in it. So like, why not make her character to show she's going through what DiCaprio's going through and Damon, like she's keeping this secret. And I know all that shit's
Yeah.
there, but I just feel like there was just a lot of there's just a lot left on the table that could have been, you know. But I do think she's very good in this movie, and you know,
Oh yeah,
what
she's terrific. Yeah.
yeah. So I think she's a
I
real
mean, but
discovery.
yeah, she's like everyone in this though. I mean, like I was just going into like the acting and the actors and how everyone is at swinging and hitting.
Yeah.
And Nicholson kind of I was surprised by because I remember the lead up to when it came out and everyone was just like, oh, Nicholson's off, he's unhinged. Like he shows up with a dildo and he's like doing rat impressions and no one knows what the hell he's gonna do next. And he was like, and so the first time I watched, I'm like, oh yeah, that's kind of annoying me. He's just kind of yelling things to
Mm.
yell them. But then like this time I'm watching, I'm like, oh no, he really is just an evil fucking person, like a scumbag. Like he would be kind of keeping everyone off their toes at all point because like you don't know what he's gonna do next. I'm just like, oh, I'm appreciating it. So like to go to my point with Formiga, you get lost in everyone doing great things and yeah, and everyone like everyone can't be doing big acting this entire movie because then it becomes Megalopolis.
Which I haven't seen.
Timely.
Well, let's stick with Nicholson for a second because this is the second. He only makes two more movies after this. He makes neither of which I've seen. He makes The Bucket List, and then he makes I think it's called How Do You Know with James L. Brooks.
Yeah,
So he hasn't.
yeah,
He's been retired for 15 years, and appears he's 88 now. So he appears to be just retired. But this is an interesting moment in his career because yeah, he's kind of playing it like the devil, like the Witches of Eastwick. Like he's kind of
yeah.
and I think it works. I think you need obviously it's a Scorsese movie, so you're gonna have star
He's almost
power.
playing it like Pacino in Devil's Advocate more
Yeah.
than him as the devil in.
Yeah, that's actually a better
Like
comparison. You're
there's
right.
a huge Devil's Advocate vibe in this. Just like, oh,
That's a
like,
much
yeah,
better
if he turned
comparison.
out to be the devil, I wouldn't be surprised. But
Well, they certainly go that way with that scene. I mean, we'll kind of jump around a little bit, but that scene, which was sort of infamous right away, where he goes to the opera and he's throwing the cocaine on like his girlfriend, but one of them might be a prostitute, and it's sort of bathed in red. It's the only thing like visually that's like it's one of the few things in this movie that's like visually very sort of like what the fuck is this? This is
yeah,
I wrote
yeah.
down like that cocaine scene is a choice. Um, and you get the impression with a lot of the actors in this, um, rightly or wrongly, you get the impression that a lot of things were improvised. And I've never read
Yes.
William Monahan's script, so maybe I'm certainly not trying to insult him. I think the script is very good, but you definitely get a sense of in its best moments acting wise things being improvised. Less so with the Leo character, but certainly with the Nicholson character and sometimes with the Damon character, certainly with Baldwin and Wahlberg. I mean, I could just be
Yeah.
complimenting the acting and not dissing the writing. But I think that
No,
it's it.
I actually read or I was watching. Like I said, I just made my algorithm full of Departed clips, so it's wonderful. And now I'm getting I saw Matt Damon was talking about. He was talking about hanging out with Jack Nicholson and
Mm.
talking, and Jack Nicholson saying, "Did you see this?" Where he's just like,
Yeah.
"The key to being a good actor is being a good writer,"
Yeah.
and how he's talking about the scene. It's just like one cutaway scene where they shoot the lady and the guy at the dock,
Yeah.
or in the marsh.
Yeah.
And it's like she felt funny,
Yeah.
and he's like, "Something wrong with you or whatever." But
Right.
like the whole story is like Nicholson's like, "Well, we're going out there and we're shooting anyway. What if I shoot the woman instead of just a guy? Like, and what if Winstone's with me and I say something to him?"
Right.
And they're like, "All right, yeah, why not? We can do that." And then like so apparently like it keeps going. Like he just like let the cameras roll, and like they shoot her, and Nicholson says something like, "I kind of want to fuck her now again." And then like it goes on for a second. Then he looks at Winstone and he's like, "I'm just fucking with you or whatever."
Right.
And then Winstone's like, "There's something. Maybe you should go get checked out or something." Whatever the line is. But then like they cut it so that
Right.
it's just those two things. But he's talking about how it's like, oh, Nicholson's just always giving like
Yeah.
lots of different choices and different things to see. You know, like you could go darker with this guy. I could just be a little funnier. You could make your choices. And some of the choices I felt were a little bit hammier at first. But now I'm just like, you know, it's fun. It's enjoyable.
If you cast an actor like Nicholson in that role, he could just suggest so much just by his very presence. It's one of those times where like casting a movie star, you know, does a lot of lifting for you. Like Nicholson's the bad guy, you know, like, okay, this guy's probably fucking nuts. This guy's probably a little prone to violence. You know that the DiCaprio character is not safe. It's an interesting, because I'm a huge Nicholson fan. I've read 2 books about him. And I think that this is you know, I don't think it's in like the top 5 or even 10 of his best performances, but I think it was an interesting, you know, he never worked with Scorsese before, and I think that's like that was even like, oh, like when Pacino was in The Irishman, like, oh, cool, like this is like two this is like an actor director
this was
team up.
definitely like everyone was like, dude, you're making this. Oh, I got to be in this movie somehow. Like,
Right.
I'll be in it, and that's why the cast is so great.
Yeah, he's kind of like, if this movie has a prestige factor, it's for 2 reasons. One is Scorsese himself, and Nicholson, who's in 2 other Best Picture winners, obviously has 3 Oscars and is just a fucking legend. I mean, that's what brings this movie up to the Nicholson piece of this might be why we're talking about it on this show, might be why it's in the Oscar race. I'm not saying it's undeserving, but having somebody of that wattage, of that prestige, who also happens to be right for the movie and fun in the movie. Yeah, I mean, when Nicholson wasn't,
it's a big old prestige, you know, your old fashioned movie star movie with lots of things and has lots of big names, and everyone's having fun, and you know, just like everyone's having a good time, and you see it's like, yeah, I'm gonna go see this movie. It's why wouldn't I see it? You know?
Yeah, this was a big hit.
And it's so well made, and it is so prestigious that's what gets it into the Oscar conversations,
right?
And that's what, you know, eventually everyone's like, well, you know what, Marty, you know, he made the best movie of his wheelhouse. Like, yeah, this is his movie. Like,
so just in between Casino and The Departed, he makes Kundun, which was a beautifully shot movie, and I just wasn't interested.
I love it, but yes, I don't go back to it thinking like, oh yeah.
He makes what's probably the most forgotten movie, perhaps unfairly, of his entire career, which is Bringing Out the Dead, which is a movie no one talks about at all.
It pops up on Twitter occasionally.
Does it?
People are like, no, it's fucking solid. Like it has its fans. Like, it's found its following.
Okay, I'm glad to hear that.
People will argue for it.
Yeah, I saw it one time. I didn't even see it in the theater.
It's weird considering how many movies we did see that year that was the one that we didn't see. We're just like, why is that one? Like, why do we have to see Random Hearts? Why can't we see Bringing Out the Dead?
Yeah, the fact that in 1999, which is a storied movie year, there was a Scorsese movie with Nicolas Cage, who I was still, you know, it's interesting because like, you know, Nick Cage does that movie, and it's like at least on paper, it's like, oh, okay, he's still working. You know, he's working with an interesting director. It's not a big Hollywood movie. He probably helped get it made.
Schrader script.
And I read the book. actually, and I think the book was something I just wasn't that interested in. But yeah, like it might be worth revisiting. Again, I'm not saying Bringing Out the Dead is bad, but it is just forgotten, except for like as you mentioned, I guess a minute ago, it's not something that people talk about. Gangs in New York is something I talked about in our 2002 episode. I think I think that movie's just kind of a mess. I think it's and I'm very comfortable laying the blame for that mess at Harvey Weinstein's feet. I think that it sort of the bloat and sort of I don't know. I obviously Daniel Day Lewis in that movie is very good, and I think it's visually the production design is really strong. But the Marty Leo collaboration did not get off on a great foot with me. And Aviator, similarly, I like it better than Gangs, but it again was very Oscar baitiony. It had things in it that I liked, but I just felt like I just
That
felt
didn't
like
feel like Martin Scorsese made that movie. That movie felt like anyone could have made that movie. Like
yeah, it was sort
it
of
felt
like
like what's his name, John Madden could have made the movie, and it would have been pretty much the same movie,
yeah. So
except you wouldn't have gotten a great Blanchett. But
yeah, I think that yeah, but and I don't want to say that he can only do crime movies because I love Age of Innocence. I think After Hours is the only movie I like of his better than After Hours is Goodfellas. So I love The Color of Money. You know,
are you a Silence fan?
I actually have never seen Silence. Silence is a hole for me. And I think I avoided it because I just thought it would be like those movies I just mentioned.
But yeah, like Silence is something I want to watch. The Irishman and The Killers of the Flower Moon. These are movies that I want to give my attention to, but at 3.5 hours with life as it is, I can't. And I'm like, and I feel so terrible
Yeah.
not being able to do these things. And that's why I haven't gotten to that one yet.
Yeah.
But like, I did eventually come to The Irishman.
Yeah.
And I thought it was very good.
Yeah.
And everyone was very good in it.
Yeah.
But again, like I was sitting and I'm just watching it and I'm like, it's about 2 hours. I think I'm going to take a break for lunch.
Yeah.
You know, and like, and I feel bad doing that. And Killers of the Flower Moon, like they released it. It's like, oh, I don't want to go see that. I don't have 4.5 hours to spare to go to the movies. I mean, I'd love to, like, I'd love to, but I'm not in the week and a half window that I have to go see it on IMAX, you know?
Yeah. I think what's interesting is I don't know, with possibly the exception of Bringing Out the Dead, I don't know that he's made a movie south of 150 minutes. And this one isn't. This one is about that, I think. But
Cape Fear's under 2.
Cape Fear, but
Or
that's
just
long.
over 2.
No, Cape Fear. No, yeah, but that's a long time before this.
No, yeah.
I somebody once said, I think Amy Nicholson said that she think it'd be interesting. It would never happen if Christopher Nolan was limited to like a $30 million budget. You know, whatever the number is, like that's all you can do. Would never happen. I'm wondering if because Scorsese has said that his next movie, which already isn't true, because I think he's doing something else, but he was saying that he wanted to make a movie and he said it was going to be 80 minutes. And I was like, if the movie was terrible and it was 80 minutes, I would still applaud it. I mean, movies are just way too long, in my opinion. Billy Corben said it best last week. And Crash is, we sort of celebrated it being an hour and 52 minutes and being very fleet. You know, we had a really interesting discussion about maybe it deserved its editing Oscar for all its flaws. But he said it best. He said it's very rare that a movie needs to enter a third hour. And that's so typical now. Every movie you see, it's 2 hours and 40 minutes, you know?
Yeah.
Without even blinking. And now nobody, I remember when Goodfellas came out, which is like 2:35, I think. And it's, in my opinion, the greatest edited movie of all time. And that was like this thing about like, no, it goes by so fast. You had to be like sold on, like, no, yeah, Goodfellas is 2.5 hours, but man, it's so good. It's so good. And like now, if it was 2.5 hours, you'd pop champagne. Like, oh, that's tight. Like 2:30? Like, that's nothing.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think that The Departed, to bring it back, is paced really well. So I don't quite know what I would cut. But I do think looking at this runtime and what this movie is, and in some places should be, it doesn't quite match.
It's just wonderful. We're talking about Oscars, and I'm like, but and I come home and I look at Happy Gilmore 2, and it says it's like almost 2 hours long. I'm like, it doesn't need to be 2 hours long.
Yeah. Well, I think, yeah, it isn't just about being over. I think it's like what's the movie you're watching? Like if you're looking at a comedy, a silly comedy like Happy Gilmore, and it's 2 hours, and I'm sure the first one is 100 minutes soaking wet.
Yeah.
It's just bloat.
Like, yeah, sometimes you can make short movies. It's okay.
Yeah,
It
I
doesn't
don't.
always have to be, like sometimes a Stranger Things episode is longer than a movie, but like it's okay to make short movies. Just
Yeah, Gene Siskel said something interesting. I'll probably fuck it up. He said that like so they had written in and asked like, do you guys have a problem with movie lengths? You don't like short movies? And Gene Siskel said something to the effect of like, I've seen short movies that I thought would never end, and I've seen long
yeah,
movies that go by in a blink. So
yeah.
I'm not doing that word perfect, but the thrust of what he's saying, I think I am capturing, which is just,
Yeah.
yeah.
I
I
think it
mean,
was, or I read Ebert, or like the flip side, he said the same thing, like no good movies too short, or no good movies too long, no bad movies too short, or
right? Yeah,
no bad movies short enough.
yeah, no bad movie short enough, and good movies can't be long enough. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
whatever it is, we
Yeah.
somewhere in there. But yeah, I mean, that's yeah. It's just I guess it's a trend that's just going on now. It's certainly a trend with if I saw like I remember when The Killer came out, the Fincher movie, and I was sure it was going to be a minimum of 2 hours and 30 minutes. And I looked and it was south of 2 hours. And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I was like, there's my review. Like, good for you. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, and I thought the movie was really good, but like the fact that that David Fincher was like, yeah, this could be less than 2 hours. Like, this is not, and I don't even think Mank is that long. I mean, Mank might be like 210 or something, but like Mank
Yeah.
for what it is
Yeah.
on the leaner side. Considering it's like a biopic, like that won a bunch of Oscars and was in the conversation. That movie's not that long, but we digress. We're talking a lot about the actors, and I think the forgetting who's famous and who isn't. I think the performances in this are really strong. Let me ask
Oh
this
yeah.
question, a question I don't think I'll get to ever ask on this show again. Has Mark Wahlberg ever been better than he is in
No,
this movie?
he has not.
Yeah.
He is outstanding in this. And I even wrote it here, like, I have like Damon, always love him. Nicholson, thought he was being a little too much, but I appreciate it. And then I have like 3 or 4 lines of Wahlberg of just like how good he is in this, how well he does his character, how angry he is, how just like Boston he is.
Yes.
Like he's a asshole. Like, and you're just like, yeah.
Yeah,
Like
and
he goes home and he hates his neighbors and his neighbors hate him.
yeah.
Like he brings that energy to everywhere he goes. And he is just a delight. And every time he's in the movie, that little exchange he has with Baldwin, I'm glad he got the acting nom,
Yeah.
like out of everyone in the cast, because he is the best and he's the one. And he does wind up being sort of your moral center of the film,
Yeah.
of just like he's the only one who can bring the circle close and bring any sort of retribution or justice or any of this makes sense.
Yeah.
And I'd be okay with him if he actually won it.
Mm.
Even that would be terrible for the rest of humanity.
Well, it's interesting because Wahlberg now, and I say this as somebody who really liked Play Dirty, but that's a bit of an exception. The movie he just put out, the Shane Black movie.
Oh, I want to see that one. Thank you for reminding me.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. He's slightly on less autopilot than he is in his other movies in that one. Play Dirty is a lot of fun, but what was interesting about Wahlberg is in this run, he, I don't have the movie I Heart Huckabees is something that like just confused and confounded me, and I'm in good company there. I'm speaking for the majority,
No,
but
I'm with you.
Yeah, but I think he was.
And I was very excited for it too because
Oh yeah, me too.
Oh, this sounds kind of like in my wheelhouse, and then it's like, but he was the best part of it.
110%. That's exactly what I was going to say. Like, there's a scene in that movie. I don't remember the setup. I know a very young Jonah Hill is in it, which I didn't know at the time, where he sits down with a family, and it's like Mark Wahlberg. That's a movie filled with really like Dustin Hoffman and Jude Law and Lily Tomlin and Jason Schwartzman and Isabelle Huppert and Naomi Watts, and I might not even be getting everybody. Wahlberg seems to be the only one tuned into what that movie is, maybe because he'd worked with Russell on Three Kings, and he was definitely, you
Yeah.
know, it's interesting. I wish he had. I don't know if he was supposed to be in Silver Linings Playbook and Russell dicked him over. I feel like David O. Russell was the only director that he worked with today's movie being an exception, that kind of understood like what Wahlberg could be. Like, when
Yeah.
Wahlberg leans into things, I think he can be very good. He's not in the class of DiCaprio or Damon, even though he's like they're all the same kind of
Not quite, but I
generation.
mean, he's like he holds his own. He does it
Yeah,
like he has the intensity. He has every scene. Like
yeah, he's very good in this movie. And what was interesting, I had read this could be internet bullshit, but like, who almost played his part?
oh, I read that too, but I forgot.
Ray Liotta.
Yes.
And on the one hand, it's like, yeah, Ray Liotta age wise might make more sense. And like that would definitely add to like, oh, okay, it's like him reteaming with Scorsese, and he would have nailed this part. Because if the one that you can kind of ding, it's like that Mark Wahlberg is like the same age as like Damon and DiCaprio, and like, he's like supposed to be so much older,
Yeah.
and like, but yeah, I
Well,
do. Good.
yeah. There's like little things like that too, where it's like it works. Where in the scene, the briefing scene, where Damon inquires like, "Who's the departed?"
Yeah.
Like, and I yell, "Title!" And but when he says that, and you could see, and they talk about like whatever, like the guy, his dad ran the drugstore with. I don't remember what the line is. I'm
Yeah,
and I just watched it like 3 hours ago. That's how great I'm doing today.
that's okay.
But the point is, though, like you can sense that it was like, oh, we know each other. We know Boston. We know this town. We know our city. Like,
Right.
and you can see it. There's like, all right, we got that. Kind of, and they don't even like they barely mention it. And the rest of the time, I even love it when like he's walking just past a window and just flips him off. Like it's just like
that I love.
every choice he makes is just perfect.
Yeah.
And you're like, yes.
Yeah, like, and I think he's like the most profane character, even more profane than Nicholson,
Yes.
who drops the C word a couple times. Actually, Wahlberg does too.
Oh yeah,
Um,
several times in his interview.
yeah,
I love it.
yeah, I think that yeah, he's just terrific in this in a movie filled with good performances. I mean, I don't think there's a bad performance in this movie. One thing that struck me with this movie, we're talking a lot about the editing and how propulsive it is, and I agree. Um, I saw a video essay. There's this guy named Tony Zhao who does these incredible video essays. I'm not even sure he's still doing it. And he's done one on every director. Like he has one about the Spielberg Oneer, and he has like one on Fincher, and he did one on Scorsese, and he talked about how great he is at silence. And it's one of those things you never think about. And a couple months ago, I rewatched Cape Fear, and the scene in Cape Fear that's probably the most famous scene from the movie is just the scene with De Niro and Juliette Lewis where they're in the high school auditorium, which is like, I don't know, maybe it's 10 minutes long, maybe it's 12 minutes. And
Yeah, yeah.
it's completely, but
Yeah, there's not a lot of noise in that
there's
scene
no
'cause they're
noise,
on
there's no
stage.
music.
very
It's
quiet. Yeah.
two setups, it's just pop, pop, pop. And it's for a litany of reasons, like the most terrifying scene in that movie for what you think is going to happen, the implications of what does happen, on and on and on. And I think there's another great video called Scorsese in 6 Minutes. And this is before he had made Irishman or Killers, so those aren't included. It's incredibly well edited, and there's a section of that 6 minute piece where they're just showing the silent moments from his movies, or some of them. And one of the things they showed is the scene from Goodfellas, the "What do you think I'm funny" scene, and just the quiet part of that. This movie has maybe one of the best ones of his career, which is the scene where DiCaprio and Damon are like calling each other and not saying anything, which is like, to me, this movie might be my favorite scene in the entire movie because it's completely visual. There's so much going on. There's no music. He's letting it breathe. And like that to me is like, that's where this movie really kind of slaps for me. I'm enjoying the whole thing,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it comes after a very violent, intense scene, and it's like kind of the beginning of the third act. Not that we have to get into that bullshit, but he's so great at that, and it's one of those things that like I feel like he's a little undersung for, because when you think of Martin Scorsese, you're thinking about intense moments and violence and beautiful shots and like all these like none of these moments are iconic to his career, which we have no control over any more than he does. But I just think that if you were to rank sort of the greatest silent moments in his movies, this would be way up there.
Oh
Um,
yeah, yeah,
and I think that you know, it's just masterfully done. And there's kind of a section of this movie that I call the no way out section. Where Damon says like, "I got to find myself," and I kind of wish they
yeah,
held this note a little bit longer. This idea that like Damon is leading this investigation that points to him. But there's a lot of tension in like what this movie's really good at, the Damon character just having to cover his tracks. I mean, it's actually kind of interesting sequel to his Ripley character. The Ripley character is an even bigger sociopath and doesn't have the moral quandaries. The Colin Sullivan has some humanity, even though he's still a
yeah.
piece of shit. And props to Damon for playing this part. I think it's just like a perfect encapsulation of his career, in that like it's a big movie, you know, that's drafting off some of his wattage, but he's playing the villain, and not only a
Yo,
villain.
yeah. Go ahead.
Not only is he playing the villain, it's not like Nicholson's a fun villain. I mean, Damon's just like a piece of shit, and he's like really kind of like unlikable. Like he's likable in some scenes, and it's kind of, which is typical of him. It's kind of fearless, like this part he's playing, because it's not a fun villain, because Nicholson has the fun villain
Yeah,
part.
yeah.
He's
And
the
he's,
big.
and Damon's coming off of, like being Born and the Ocean's movies where, he is a likable and he is heroic and stuff. So it's for him to play like a scumbag kind of. And even so, like, I love it when he discovers that Nicholson's been a rat to the FBI.
Yeah,
And he's like, motherfucker, like, I'm going to get him.
yeah,
Like, I'm going to fucking,
yeah.
like he's just so angry about it.
Well, it's self-preservation,
That
because
he's,
yeah, I mean, he
yeah.
he knows, yeah, I mean, he knows that like I think that's one of the problems I have with this movie. I just talked about the cell phone scene, which is so visual and so well handled. I think, and this might be a screenplay thing. There's a lot of revelations in this movie, like the one you just mentioned, that are just told to the characters. Like a character tells Leonardo DiCaprio, like Costello's a rat for the FBI, and it's like you have this FBI character, this liaison. I think his name is Lazio or something. I'm not even sure the guy says anything.
Yeah.
Like, I hate to rewrite someone else's movie, particularly one that's as good as this, but like, it would have been better if DiCaprio or Damon came across that information in a more active way. If like they saw Costello talking to the FBI
Yeah.
as a character. I
I'm
don't know.
sure there is a version of that, but like,
Yeah,
yeah, again,
it's like, but they wouldn't have known that if this dude who DiCaprio shot hadn't screamed it at him and had Martin
yeah,
Sheen not written it down. It's just a little like,
yeah,
it's a little easy. Although I do want to say, I always forget that scene where DiCaprio shoots the guy in the leg, and the guy says like, I thought I'd go into shock. I'm not in shock. This hurts. I thought that was a great
yeah.
moment. Um, I don't know who that actor is. He might be some local or something, but I thought that was a great,
Yeah.
um, yeah. I think you had mentioned like this, the sort of the thing about coincidences. Like there, there's one thing that kind of bugs me. Not one thing. It's just like a little sloppy, and it could have been avoided. Like I feel like this movie you could put on the poster. It's like Leonardo DiCaprio, Matt Damon, Jack Nicholson, and the Citizen's Envelope. I feel like the Citizen's Envelope. I like it. I understand. I think it works in terms of like, I understand what it's doing, but I just feel like that whole thing. It's like I believe that Damon would leave that on his desk and forget about it, but I feel like he would at least put it under some papers, and DiCaprio just sees it, and I
Especially because it was like from a few weeks or months prior, right? Like,
right. But here's my question, and I feel like they might have answered this, and maybe this is some editing that doesn't work. Does he grab the envelope to go run DiCaprio through the database, or does he not need that because he has his password, which is his name? Like he doesn't have that in his Like, he doesn't have like, why is that out on his desk, I guess is what I'm saying. Like, I can see him
Right.
forgetting he has it. It's not
Yeah, yeah.
incriminating. If, like, another cop walks in, he's not gonna see that and be like, "What is that?" But it's like, I just wanted that
Unless it was,
moment. Okay.
yeah. Unless it was all just like in the evidence box and he was just taking it out to, but I don't know.
They
Like,
could have it's a hole that they could have easily plugged in production or maybe even, like, picked up a couple shots. It's just because it's such an important thing, like, I like that DiCaprio figures out that Damon's the rat, but the way that it's like the way that it happens, it's just happenstance, you know?
yeah,
It's just and this is a movie that had I mean, again, it's like he's following it says follow the envelope, so he's, like, following it and, like, he sees Nicholson holding it, and so, like, that all is fine. I mean, I do like another scene I like, um, where they almost encounter each other in the alley with the knife. I think that scene works pretty well, which again is largely visual, because there's a lot of tension in just keeping these 2 guys apart, and
yeah,
it's
yeah.
double because these are, like, the 2 big movie stars, and, you know, they only have 2 scenes together, and obviously, so I think even that scene where they first meet, it's like I won't say it's like heat because they weren't yet at that stature, Pacino and De Niro. Looking back on it, it is kind of like, oh, okay, cool. Like this is these guys have never made a movie together since. Kind of hope
Well,
they
yeah.
do. I don't know what it
I
would
mean, well,
be.
even at that point, like we've had the Leo and Damon Renaissance since, like 9 years now at that point, between Titanic and Good Will Hunting and
Yeah.
into
And Wahlberg too, the same
Boogie
year he
Nights
does
even.
Boogie Nights. So like all three of those
Yeah.
guys really kind of came to power
Yeah.
to like prominence in one year, like one season even, which is
Yeah.
crazy that they're all in one movie. I know Wahlberg was in Basketball Diaries with Leo. So,
Yeah.
but
And famously, DiCaprio turned down Boogie Nights because he was in Titanic, but said, you should check out Mark.
So there's a visual thing which I found out about when I watched a documentary when I got the DVD of this in
Mhm.
2007, and it's hard to unsee it. Did you notice all the
The
X's?
X's.
Yeah, the
Yep.
X's. So I'll explain to people who might not know what we're talking about. So it might be Angels and Dirty Faces. There's a lot of like gangster movies from Warner Brothers who also did this movie that Scorsese obviously loved when he was a kid, and they have a lot of X's. And if you look at this movie, sometimes it's like there's a scene, for instance, where like DiCaprio's in like an airport terminal, and there's like the girder beams or X's, and sometimes they're just projected. I think it's a kind of a fun game in this movie. There's just X's all over it. Sometimes it's graffiti. Sometimes it's projected
Sometimes it's
behind.
duct tape on the like in the elevator. It's like
Mm,
duct tape and the repairs and stuff.
yeah,
And it's in the windows, like the
yeah.
boarded up windows in the same location.
I'm not sure I've even seen them all. I mean, I'm sure there's a supercut somewhere on YouTube where it's like all the X's. I can't imagine that doesn't exist. I have not looked
Yeah.
for it. If not, you can do it now. So that's like kind of a fun thing that I think that's like a really fun. I'm using this word a lot. A fun touch that this movie has. Um, you know, I think a lot of what I like about this movie, and this is what I took from it from the first time I saw it. There are 2 or 3 moments in this movie. Have you ever seen the original, Infernal
I did
Affairs?
not.
I'm not either.
I
So I've never been through this story, which I'm glad. I've been meaning to watch it. I think that movie's like less than 2 hours, so it's definitely like watching this movie on fast forward. But there's a
I
couple
should have
mo-
watched that instead.
there's a couple moments in this movie, and I love when any movie can do this, where not only was I surprised, I felt like I don't know what's going to happen now. And 2 leap out at me, and I'm curious if there are any others. One is when Martin Sheen is killed. When Martin Sheen is killed, I remember thinking, I don't know what happens now. And this is a good thing. And I
Yeah.
love, how he lands in front of DiCaprio and the blood squirts on him, which I didn't notice that the first time I saw it, that like they had like the blood hit him, which it would, and how the guys come
Yeah.
out and he switches. He's like, oh my, he's like totally freaked out. And then he like kind of you see him switch to like, what's going on? Like switching back to like his character. I thought that was masterfully well acted. And I thought that was a
Yeah.
moment. Um, I love moments like that in movies where I'm surprised by something. I don't know what's going to happen next, but I'm
Yeah.
confident that the filmmakers do. And whether they deliver on that promise is obviously not something I know. This movie does. Another
Yeah.
moment
That's like the Sam Jackson Deep Blue Sea thing.
Yeah.
In the middle of the movie, he gets eaten by a shark that came in from nowhere, and you're like, oh shit, now I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah. I think movies like that, I just
And
love when that
obviously that's
happens.
a film on the caliber of The Departed too. So
Well, we will do a Deep Blue Sea cast at some point. It was in the Oscar conversation, but
I'll do a minute by minute with you.
yes. Another moment that I love, and this is just so there's a lot of violence in this movie that's all well done, kind of typically for Scorsese, but the one that like I think kind of belongs in the pantheon of like his great violence. I mean, I wouldn't put it at the top, but it's just masterfully staged. When DiCaprio gets killed in this, it is such a
Yes.
shock because the elevator door slides open and he just catches one
You
right in
don't
the
even
head.
get a second. It's just like bam.
And that's how it would happen. And
Yeah.
that was a moment where I'm
And
like,
the viscera and the gore of it too is
Yeah.
just like, oh.
yeah. And I think they were not yet doing that digitally. And um and that's a moment. There are moments in Goodfellas like that. There are moments in Cape Fear like that. There are moments in Casino like that, on and on. I'm not ranking this above those, but I do think it's in the conversation because it's so masterfully staged. It's not only the lead of the movie, it's like he already was pretty much the biggest movie star ever. He was certainly ascendant. I think he was already, yeah, I think he pretty much already then was top 2, 3 biggest movie stars in the world, which he
Oh,
still
yeah.
is. So the fact that he got killed, because I don't know what I thought was going to happen. I can't remember that clearly. I don't know if I thought
Yeah.
it was, I knew, I didn't think it was going to have a happy ending, but I thought, I don't know what the hell I thought. I mean, but like
At
if
that
you,
point, you're just hoping he kind of gets away with it. Like he'll be fucked up in the head, maybe injured, but you're like, oh, you want Damon to get you want justice
Right.
for Damon, and then that happens. You're like, oh, okay,
right. And I think that was just such a masterfully done, just masterfully staged, and such a shock. And those two moments are kind of what I think of when I think fondly of this movie. Because for me, of the 6 Marty Leo movies, this is number 1 for me.
okay.
Wolf of Wall Street would be kind of a close second, which is a different thing. I don't have them all ranked, but I can say that I like those 2 and Killers, and I'm not hot on the other 3. So they're at 500, and then they're doing another one soon. If that one's good, then they'll made more I liked and I didn't like. Um, but yeah, I just think that like that just shows like that just reminds me that like okay, this is a fucking master filmmaker,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
in his wheelhouse. One thing I want to mention, this did come up in my research in IMDb, but I didn't want to do it in the stats part because it doesn't have to do with the Oscars.
Yeah.
We were talking about the X's, and we were talking, like what a cool stylistic thing that was. This is something I did not know because I'm not a gambler. So I came across this in my research. So Matt Damon lives in apartment 711, and
Oh yeah, yeah.
do you know this?
Oh, I just read that too.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So so in craps, a 7 or 11 is an automatic win for the shooter, and in this case, Mark Wahlberg's character is the shooter because he walks in and he
Yeah.
gets shot. But that is not an accident that he lives in apartment 711. They could have given him
Yeah.
any number. And I love when movies do stuff like that. I love those kind of Easter eggs. Like the X's is a slightly visual motif, but again, I think if you notice one of the X's, you wouldn't notice any of the other ones.
And apparently there's one, and I don't know if this is just someone reading into it too much, and it just was a happy coincidence. But when they playing football against the Fire guys,
Rugby. I think it's
soccer?
rugby.
Rugby, yeah.
I think.
Damon's wearing 10, which is X in Latin or Roman numerals.
Oh.
We were talking about like the smartphone and the Patriot Act. It's just like right on that sort of precipice of like constant surveillance state where we have access to all information at any given time. And it's just, the smartphone has sort of ruined films in ways that just like, oh, well, you have access to everything.
Sure.
In a way, like for plot wise, like why wouldn't you have to always consider that as a reasoning when you're writing anything. Like, why doesn't this person just use their phone?
This is a movie that's like embracing technology. This is a cell phone movie.
No, it really is. Like it is, and it has when they're bragging about the surveillance of the locations, like Patriot Act, fucking yeah.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a really funny scene and funny lines. And that also has that great Mark Wahlberg line, like, I'm the guy who's doing his job. You must be the other fucking guy.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. Which
And
kind
it
of
also
became the
has
most.
my favorite Baldwin's like, I'm gonna have a smoke. You want to smoke? Well, you don't smoke. You're one of those fitness freaks. Go fuck yourself. And like,
I wrote both those down. Those are. I think the "You must be the other guy" might be the most quoted line from this movie. There was no social media yet, or it was very nascent. But I feel
yeah,
like that's like a very memeable
yeah.
moment.
This movie was just right at that cusp of just like everything starting.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, it is a moment in time which it was not intending. I mean, you really do.
Yeah, yeah,
This is like a demarcation of smartphones and social media and all these things that are changing. Yeah, it's interesting to think about it that way for a movie that has no ambitions to this. It's not.
yeah, yeah.
There's
It
no
just seems to
statement being
be.
made, but every movie makes a statement whether it intends to or not. Or every movie is a time capsule. If it's set in the present day,
Exactly. Yeah,
your movie is a time capsule, and this is a great
yeah.
example of that. Sticking with Best Picture, why do you think that this one? So I remember, and maybe you do too. In fact, I'm sure you do. This was a Best Picture race that was wide open. It was 5
Yeah.
nominees still. There was, you know,
Yeah, there wasn't a huge front runner,
there wasn't a
and they
huge
were
front
still doing
runner.
that like indie studio thing. So for every big prestige studio thing that seemed like a front runner, you had the indie. Oh, who's coming on the side here? Like,
Yeah,
oh,
this and I remember thinking this at the time, and I don't think this has really happened since where a race could go. I mean, it's not going to happen with 10 nominees or up to 10 nominees, but this was
no,
the one time, and I said this, I'm sure I said it to you back in 2007 when these Oscars were going on. We're talking just about picture now. This is a
yeah,
race that felt like it could have broken all 5 directions. I
yeah,
remember thinking going into Oscar night that like, oh, maybe it'll be Babel, a movie I had not seen. I'm just talking politics right now, like Oscar politics. I remember thinking, oh, it could be Babel, but there was a strong case for all 5 of these movies, not just
yeah.
qualitatively, but just in terms of what it had won, what was going on. Not something we talk about a ton about on this show, but The Departed won. Just talking about the Best Picture award. We're not
Yeah.
gonna talk about whether it deserved to yet, but just why do you think this won? Why did this happen? Whether you agree with it or not.
Are they doing? They're not doing that like preferential voting at this
No.
point.
And
Okay, yeah. So
I
it's
made this
just
point last week with Crash that there was no preferential ballot. So this is the movie with
okay.
the most votes winning. Preferential ballot explains a lot because the preferential ballot, if like more people rank it at 2 or 3 and then ones and twos get knocked out, then you could see how the last 15 best picture winners have happened, whether you agree with it or
Yeah,
not. It doesn't have to be your favorite, just something you liked a lot. No, this is winner
yeah.
take all.
Honestly, so of that grouping of the 5 that year, which are Little Miss Sunshine, Babel, Letters to Ujima,
Yeah, and the Queen,
yeah, and The Queen, The Departed, like we say, is the most fun, the
hands
most
down.
accessible.
Yeah.
Well, I guess not. Little Miss Sunshine is fun and little and heartwarming. I'm not like I liked it. I would have been fine with Little Miss Sunshine winning. Actually, I've been like, yeah, no, it's fine. It's a really good, sweet, but like a bittersweet movie, and the kind of movies that I loved in that time that they don't really make anymore. But
And things like that were winning. Like it wasn't Miramax, I think it was Fox Searchlight, but there was, I mean, small movies were winning. Like Million Dollar Baby is a small movie, Crash is a small movie. So
oh
Little Miss
yeah, yeah.
Sunshine could have been the one.
But I mean, also, I mean, like it's a small, heartwarming movie, like kind of
Sure.
like an upper. Like yes, there's a bunch of down in it, but it kind of makes you feel good at the end.
Yeah.
But
Happy ending for
but
sure.
also the whole Scorsese thing, the whole like he's going back to his roots and just like this is a great movie. Like I like watching this movie. I have no problem declaring this the best of the year. And you have enough people doing that, and you don't have like I think this was like a Weinsteinless year.
You know what? I think it might be. I mean, I don't he wasn't
At
involved.
least in the best picture department.
Yeah, I don't think the Queen is his and Iwo
Yeah, because
Jima's
at this
Warner
point
Brothers.
he's split from Miramax proper
You're
and
right.
has his own company.
This
So
might be the only, yeah, I think
and
you're
that's why
right.
Searchlight's like, yes, we'll get in and make our own
You
movies.
know what? That's very astute. Weinstein,
Yeah,
at least for Best Picture, none of these are his. Yeah, because Iwo Jima's Warner Brothers, Departed's Warner Brothers. I don't know who did Babel. I know it's not him. Sunshine is Fox Searchlight, and I don't know who did the Queen, but I know the Queen's not his.
yeah.
Uh,
I think the Queen is actually Miramax.
But old
Like,
Miramax.
yeah, like
Right.
post Weinstein
Post Harvey.
Miramax.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um,
Um,
but yeah, like of those other ones though, it's just like, yeah, you can see the Queen totally being it and everyone being like, oh yeah, it's a big royal thing and Helen Mirren's great, sure. But I think the Departed's one just like that a lot of people actually were like, I can't wait to see that. I'd like to go see it. It does have, Oscars always had that like, oh, we've got to also appeal to the people kind of thing too. It's like, oh, it was a popular. I think it's the most popular of the five.
made the most money for
And
sure.
sometimes they feel like sometimes if we reward the popular movie, we'll have more people going to the movie. And it's so stupid. It's like no one cares about the Oscars outside of anyone in the business.
Yeah. Well, that's true now. So
Now
let's,
especially, but even then, just like I realized that I'm like, oh wow, like no one cares. Okay.
yeah. Categorically denied. Before we get to Best Picture, let's see if The Departed was worthy of the other 3 Oscars that it won. So for director, Scorsese beats Alejandro Gonzalez Iñárritu for Babel, Clint Eastwood for Letters from Iwo Jima, Stephen Frears for The Queen, and Paul Greengrass for United 93. Of those movies that you've seen, that you remember, do you think that Scorsese deserved to win Best Director?
Yes. Wholeheartedly, yes.
Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna make this easy. Wholeheartedly yes for me also.
Yeah.
I really, I
Like
haven't
people
seen.
will be like, "Oh, it's just a reward one for someone's like, no, he deserved it for this. Like,
That's what I think is
this
so
is a
great.
good one. Like,
Yeah, that's what I think is so great about this because had he won for Aviator or Gangs, I would have rolled my eyes a little bit. I wouldn't have like been mad, but
yeah,
there's such a tradition of less so with directors, more with actors, but just the idea of a makeup Oscar or someone getting an Oscar for a movie because they didn't get it for something else is something that just makes
yeah,
me fucking no one likes that. It just makes me crazy. And I think we're
yeah,
seeing a lot less of that in the current Academy, which is really encouraging. You're seeing Mikey Madison win when she's 25 years old. That's not to say that she's not going to be that good in anything else down the line, but they're not looking at
yeah.
Mikey Madison and saying like, when she's 60, we'll give it to her. But they've done that so many times, and we could all rattle off the names. I think that this is a very well directed movie. I think that, um, yeah, he did a great job with it. It's everything he does really well, and
Yeah,
yes,
like Irishman, I feel like it would have been like this is for everything, like a lifetime achievement.
and that movie's good. I like this movie a little bit better. But
Yeah,
I
but
do,
like,
yeah.
but Hugo would be the other one I'd be okay with if they gave it to him. I'd be like, yeah, I'm okay with that because I think Hugo is spectacular and it's like Scorsese and everything he loves about filmmaking. And you're like, yeah,
But a different version. But that movie is a
yeah,
stretch because it's PG, I believe, or it's definitely not
oh yeah,
R.
yeah. That's your family friendly Scorsese, which makes it fun for kids.
Yeah, I mean that's the only one I would show my kids currently.
It's a
Um,
great double feature with Departed, though. For me.
yeah, because this thing just to rant for one more second, like you know, to look at Martin Scorsese for Goodfellas on your Oscar ballot and be like, yeah, this is good, but he's got better movies ahead of him. He's got great movies ahead of him. He doesn't have better movies ahead of him. It's like for me, it's like Alfred Hitchcock not winning Best Director for Psycho in 1960, and he's much
Mhm.
closer to the end of his career than Scorsese is in 1990 for Goodfellas. It's just like just award the person at the time, regardless of how old they are. I'm not saying that's what happened in those two cases, but
Yeah.
the thing about the Oscars that a lot of people don't like is that it just seems insincere. But when you give it to somebody who's young, it does seem more merit based. Moving on to adapted screenplay, it is against Borat, Children of Men, Little Children, and Notes on a Scandal. So against those movies that you've seen that you remember, does this deserve a best adapted screenplay?
So I'm slightly biased in this one,
Okay.
only because I love both Children of Men and Little Children. I wouldn't, yeah, because Children of Men is more a feat of filmmaking than it is what it is written. Plus, there's like five dudes who wrote it. I'd be cool with Borat,
Hmm.
but it's not really a written movie.
Mhm.
It's just like a reactionary movie. Um, but I would love Little Children to have won that because I'm a huge Tom Perrotta head. He's one of my favorite authors,
Hmm.
and I think that movie deserved so much more love and attention than it eventually got
Right.
because it's like American Beauty, but like even better done and not as cringy in the like, oh, American consumerism, fuck that. This is like
Right.
it does it so well, and Todd Field does such a good job. And I felt that that was the one that really should have gotten it. I also feel Kate Winslet would have been okay to win it that year too, because she was terrific.
I think for adapted screenplay, um, I mean, I think The Departed in a lot of ways is well written, but I've cited a lot of things I think are sort of wrong with it, just logically. And I
Yeah,
think
it's
that
not the script that I'm there for. It's the
it's
performances, it's the
yeah,
craziness, it's the filmmaking.
yeah,
And
I
no, and again, no disrespect, because
yeah,
because the Academy Award winning screenwriter is gonna be like, hey, some asshole who wrote Psycho Granny said this.
well, I think it's a good script. I think Monahan did a really good job with it. I think there's
Yeah.
some logic things that maybe were mandates from the original movie. I also, uh, yeah, I don't know how much of it was improvised. That's something I won't know. So,
Plus, like, and again, and we'll get to it in the next award. No doubt that it won for the editing is really the key. And
yeah,
obviously, I say that as an editor, but like,
no, it's a big editing narrative on this show. I think looking at these nominees, I would probably give it to Notes on a Scandal. I don't know if you saw that movie. I happened to see it in the theater. Notes on a Scandal is something that, like, if you look at the poster, it looks like it'd be really boring. And
yeah.
it's written by Patrick Marber, who wrote Closer, the book and
Oh,
sorry, the
okay,
play
yeah,
and the
yeah.
movie. So it's a real nasty kind of movie, and it has. I've always sort of admired Judi Dench. I think that it's her best performance. She is nominated this year. We're not really talking about Best Actress because The Departed didn't win
Yeah.
Best Actress, but I think that Notes on a Scandal is a really nasty, intense movie, and Judi Dench and Kate Blanchett are both incredible in it. And I think if that had won Best Screenplays, looking at this now, I think that's just as a piece of writing, I think it's stronger than The Departed, which again I really like. Our last award, and one we've kind of talked a lot about already, is Best Editing. It wins against Babel, Blood Diamond, Children of Men, and United 93. So, what say you?
This movie is fantastic. Like, it's so well put together, and it just is like everyone's everyone understood the assignment. Everyone is doing their best work. Like, not their best, but everyone's doing a great job. Like,
Right.
as to be expected from this crew. Like, it's shot so good. It looks great. It sounds great. Moves great. Everything about it. So with that be yeah. So I agree with that. I could have seen it going towards Children of Men or United 93 as well, uh, because of that green grass intensity.
Right. Yeah, I don't know who a couple things. I don't know who the editor of United 93 is,
I
but
think it was the same one who did Ultimatum who won the next year anyway.
that's
So
exactly my point. So that editor, whoever he or she may be, wins the Oscar the very next year.
Chris
So,
Rouse, I believe, is his name.
oh, I think you know what? That's absolutely right. Um, yeah, I think for me, yeah, the award should go to her. People don't know we're talking about Thelma Schoonmaker, who has cut every Scorsese movie, I think, since Raging Bull, which she won her first Oscar for. She wins the Oscar for Aviator, and that's one I don't think she deserved because I just don't think that movie works. And
Yeah.
I'm not laying that on her shoulders. But I also want to say, kind of tying back to the whole makeup Oscar thing. I mean, she had 2 Oscars already, but I think that the fact that she didn't win for Goodfellas, which I consider to be nothing less than the best edited movie of all time, and so she should have won for that, even if the award still went the way of Dances with Wolves, which did win editing, and
Yeah.
I think that is a good movie. But I think
Okay. Yeah.
just looking at it editorially, I think Goodfellas is a seismic event in film editing that people might not realize. But if you like the Safdie brothers, they would be the first ones to tell you
Yeah.
that Thelma Schoonmaker is a
Like
lodestar for them.
everything edgy that you love is because of that.
And she's
Like,
I mean, she is like Martin Scorsese's John Williams in that she's the collaborator he's worked most with. I don't know how many movies it's been since Raging Bull, but that's 45 years, and I don't think she's missed a one.
yeah,
And I don't think she will. I don't think he would make a movie without her. And
yeah. It's like
um,
I feel like Tarantino lost a little bit
Sally Menke, yeah.
When she died, and
Yeah, that's interesting. I think without getting gendered about it, I think you mentioned Tarantino. Sally Menke cut all his movies from Reservoir Dogs through Bastards, and
yeah,
and I think a female presence kind of checks a lot of what could be, overbearing about some of these, not every Scorsese movie, but certainly these gangster
Yeah.
crime ones. Um, okay, so
Yeah.
Prince, did this movie do its job, or was that the other guy? It's time to test our hindsight with the verdict. Against Babel, Letters from Iwo Jima, Little Miss Sunshine, and The Queen, was The Departed the best movie nominated this year?
Yes, it was. I believe it was.
I believe it was too. This will be a short one. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think this is we've kind of talked all about it. I think you know, I do want to say that I think Letters from Iwo Jima, it's weird to say it's underrated when it's nominated for all these Academy Awards. I do think that was talked a lot about Clint Eastwood 2 episodes ago with Million Dollar Baby, so I'll just be brief about this. I do think that's one of the times where he stretches himself into a genre that he doesn't typically do, and it works. I did not like Flags of Our Fathers. I know it's
Yeah.
kind of one movie, but I thought Letters from Iwo Jima, which is completely in Japanese, save for a couple scenes, and I saw it like on video a couple months later. I was surprised at how much I liked it and how
Yeah.
not Clint it was. So I think it's
I
cool
feel
that
that
it's
way about most Clint Eastwood movies.
yeah.
Like we're just I don't know if I want to see that. And I see like, oh, that was really good.
Yeah. I think we're in an era where, he's trying a lot of stuff and some of it works, some of it doesn't. I mean,
Yeah.
right in this stretch, every other movie he makes works and the ones in
Yeah.
between don't. But they're coming at a pretty fast clip. So yeah, so people should check that movie out. But yeah, I think The Departed is of these five. I haven't seen Babel, so I'll recuse myself on that. But
Yeah.
it is the best one. So now it's time for the appeal. Was The Departed the best movie of 2006? Period.
I say no.
Okay, so what was the best movie, nominated or not?
The best. See, this is where again I was having the trouble.
You can name more than one. You don't have to do just one. Do 2 or 3
Well,
if you
then
want.
I honestly do believe, yeah, that I thought Children of Men was spectacular.
Yeah.
And just on all levels, that was another one that was just it moved me. I was amazed at how it was made. Like you could like everything about it. It was, but it was also like rightfully depressing too. Just like,
Right.
which was funny because that was my Christmas Day movie. So I really like Children of Men. I thought it was good. Again, Little Children, I thought was just. Again, I like Tom Perrotta, and between his writing and the way it was filmed, it was very much an East Coast film that it had the look, it had the feel, like it took place in that summer, and it was like a really disgustingly hot summer, and like the town pools there. I'm like, I know this world so well, and it's picturing it and capturing it so well that I'm loving it. And again, Idiocracy is a very important film to this day. We can't even get into it. I digress, though. I did see that and Crank at a wonderful double feature at the ArcLight one day, because one place he was playing. The other 2 movies, though, I will say I will make a case for, just because it is the one film that makes me happier than anything and is just cinema. Jackass #2. I'm a huge proponent of Jackass movies. They make me laugh like nothing else. They're just very clever about what they do. So I see Jackass and I'm like, this movie's really good. Like, yeah.
So it's only fitting that in episode 007 is the best movie of the year. So for me, Casino Royale was more than just a huge comeback. It's one of the best Bond movies, regardless of what it's following. And this was the first one. This is one of the first ones in a long time that had like a real tactility, if that's a word. It really kind of harkened back to like practical stunts and like the John Glenn 80s glory days, the director John Glenn, not the astronaut. The parkour sequence is one of the best action sequences of the decade, maybe of the century. This to me was my Dark Knight. When the Dark Knight was happening, I like the Dark Knight very much. It'll come up in couple episodes, I'm sure. But this to me was what The Dark Knight was for a lot of people. It was a great movie that happened to be part of a franchise. Um, they're working from the first Fleming novel, and it's the best Fleming novel. And they updated a little bit by making it Texas Hold'em instead of Baccarat, but that all kind of works. And I think one of the things that works a lot about this movie that gets a little lost is Eva Green. I would put her on definitely like Mount Rushmore of Bond women. I'm not just talking about like looks, as that franchise is filled with gorgeous, stunning women, but I think that she's in that Diana Rigg class where she's beautiful and a good actress, and she has
a good character.
She's a good character. Like, you completely buy their love story. Yeah.
I buy in that one, but not the following ones.
What's that?
I buy it in that one, but that it keeps following them for 4 more, I don't buy.
Well, what's interesting is that I think that
different podcast.
I think that she's like kind of the dragon that they're chasing, and I think the Casino Royale. I like the Craig movies that follow for the most part, but I think that Casino Royale is sort of like the standard that they're chasing, and we can debate all night whether it hits it or not. Yeah, so Casino Royale for me was the best movie of 2006. Perhaps unsurprising even to new listeners of this podcast. I always manage to work Bond in. So, Prince, our next category is Spotlight. This is where we spotlight something from any movie we like. It could be a performance, cinematography, score, stunt sequence, anything from any movie that you just want to highlight. It could be small. I did a shot a couple weeks ago. So, what do you got?
Like, the cinematography in Children of Men is spectacular.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go actually with what I was originally saying. The score to The Proposition. The Nick Cave music is a good portion of that film and a good portion of that mood, and it's just like, it's really good.
I'm going to do 2 things. My first is the cinematography for a movie called The Good German, which was directed and shot by Steven Soderbergh. He shot it underneath a pseudonym. This is a wildly unpopular or even maybe just forgotten movie. But I think this is like the most technically committed throwback in cinematic history. I think just visually, he makes it look like Casablanca, another film noirs, and just commits to it so hard visually. I understand why this movie didn't light the world on fire. I think it's pretty good, not great. But I just think just isolating the cinematography, I think that should have been in the award. I think it should have been nominated for Best Cinematography in 2006. I think that's a category. I think all the technical categories really should be digging deeper and looking at movies that maybe don't work and highlighting things like that. You see that very rarely, which is its own rant. My other thing that I want to highlight is a scene in another spy franchise, and this is Mission Impossible. Mission Impossible 3 is not one of the most popular installments. I think it has the single best acting of any scene in the franchise, and that is the very opening scene.
The Hoffman scene?
The Hoffman scene. So Philip Seymour Hoffman, and this is something that people can agree on, is the best villain in the franchise. A franchise that admittedly does not have great villains, but he's the only... He does this right after he wins his Oscar for Capote. I think this is just he's great. He's always great. I think this is a really great scene for Tom Cruise. I think that it's the last time we see Tom Cruise even put himself in a position where he's asked to spar with an actor of immense power, which is what he used to do. He used to do Paul Newman and Dustin Hoffman and Jack Nicholson and Robert Duvall. And, I don't know that he ever bests those guys, but he punches at their weight. Tom Cruise can play to the level of his competition, or not competition, but he can play to the level of his scene partner. And I think that, I think the love story in this movie is a real whiff. It doesn't work, and it's forced on the rest of this franchise. But I do think that just this one scene, and again, it's right in the beginning, so it plays out of context. Cruise's wife is tied to a chair. She's got a gun to her head, and Hoffman's saying, if you don't give me the rabbit's foot, I'm going to shoot her in 10 seconds. And it's a very slow count from 10 to 1. And you just see Cruise try all these things. He tries to negotiate with him. He tries to appeal to his sensibilities. He does all these things that someone in his position would do. And Hoffman's great in this scene too. But again, I mean, we know he's great. But again, I guess it's just we just don't see this again. The only thing I can think of that comes close is I've seen a lot of the scenes that he did with Meryl Streep in Lions for Lambs, which is the next year, which aren't on the level that's power-wise, but he does, again, hold his own with Meryl Streep. Like, he used to be able to do this, and I think he probably still can. So, yeah, I think Mission Impossible 3 is not a movie that, in that franchise, that most people rank very high. But I do think that as far as, like, emotional intensity, it's the only scene that works for me in that franchise where I don't really give a fuck about Ethan Hunt's feelings ever, but this is a scene where I do. And I think that
Yeah.
props to Cruise and props to Philip Seymour Hoffman for just being, you play better with a better player. And I think that this is a great example of that. So Prince, where can people find you if they want to find you?
If you want to find me, you can find me on therealmichaelprince.com, which is my website of all things I've done. It has tons of videos and things, a fun video introduction to me and who I am, things I've made, things I'm making, jobs I've done, and jobs I can do. And it's kind of fun in that. And it's just sort of everything I've been putting together. You can find links. I think on there you can find my Instagram, which is Instagritty, INSTAY_GRITITY. It was supposed to be Integrity, but I missed the 2 T's, and Instagritty sounds funnier because it's also spelled wrong. There's a whole long reason behind it, but the Instagram thing is literally, it's just an art project I do where I find faces and things and I put them, and yeah.
And you're on Letterboxd as well, right?
Oh, I'm on Letterboxd. Yeah, I'm Solid B Pix, PIX. Solid B Pix on Letterboxd.
Yeah, you're one of my.
You can find my dumb reviews and lists, which I thank you for. I've made so many lists.
Thank me? Oh,
you showed me how to make them at the beginning of the year, and that's all I've been doing all year. And I've been on Letterboxd for like 2 years before that. So
yeah, that's yes. Oh, you're welcome.
What can I make a list of next?
I'm obsessive with my lists, and this podcast will probably throw that into even sharper relief. Yeah, you can find me on Letterboxd, Edward Clow. You can find me on Instagram, which I'm going to start using more. Well, this was great conversation. Thank you so much for coming.
Hey, man, this is great.
Next episode, Alan Foreman and I discuss the best picture of 2007, No Country for Old Men. Till then, looking forward to looking back.